time with our author, Jeff. He's really looking forward to sharing his story and has worked so hard on getting his book published. It's only been out for about a month. About a month? Yes. Well, I also wanted to bring your attention to another event that we have coming up. We have a world-renowned performing group called the Chanticleer Quartet. They always pack the house. They're going to be here on Friday afternoon, August 3rd at 2 p.m. And there's some information on the little table over there if you'd like to grab that. We are going to have Jeff just share his story to sobriety and some tidbits along the way on that journey. And afterwards, he's going to have a book signing. His book is up here for sale for $10. And you can work with him on taking care of that. He'd be happy to sign that and answer any questions afterward. So, Jeff, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you for coming in today. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Jeff, and I'm here, like Jenny said, to share my story on what I had to do to attain sobriety, what I had to do to get there. Addiction doesn't show any prejudice. It comes in all forms and shapes and sizes. For me, it was an addiction to cocaine and then eventually crack. I came down here in April of 2017 to Richmond. I'm from South Bend, Indiana. And I spent 4 months in an inpatient rehab there at the Hope House. It wasn't easy, but it helped me learn basic life skills that I had lost when I was out there, using and drinking, eating 3 meals a day, going to bed at a decent time, getting up, cleaning, just basic stuff that I didn't do. I'm definitely grateful for that opportunity. That's a great facility. From there, I went to the 228 Club and spent 10 months in sober living transition there. At the 228 Club, I was able to become a productive member of society, get a job, maintain a job, interact with people normally, just support others, and get in a regimen of going to meetings, working with my sponsor, working steps. So. After the 10 months was up there, God blessed me with an opportunity for a job in IT at Monroe Hospital in Bloomington. That was my trade before I decided to torpedo my life. So I actually moved there 2 weeks ago. So I'm just transitioning now into how to learn to live on my own. I've been living with people in rehab and then sober living transition for 14 months. And it seems like a long time, but that's what I needed. That's what worked for me. I had tried some other outpatient, 30-day inpatient, and those are okay too, but that's one of the reasons why I went to the 228 Club afterwards, because I needed that extended time for recovery. I'm not really here to talk about the war stories, because everybody's been through them. Everybody's got problems. Everybody's had traumatic things happen to them. But there's 2 basic things that I just kind of want to cover, and it touches a little bit, on faith and God, and it's not about religion here. So one of the things, about 3 months into the Hope House, into the 4-month program, I kept hearing, get out of your self-will, get out of your self-will. And I really didn't know, what that meant. So I had to think about it. And really what that meant to me was always thinking about myself. How can I satisfy my desires? Obsessing over myself. So it's like, okay, well, how do I get out of this? Well, I had to find out what the opposite of self-will was, which to me is God's will. So God's will is helping others, reaching out, contacting an elderly family member, calling my grandma just to see how she's doing. It's kind of backwards these days. It seems like the kids expect parents and grandparents to call them, but that's not how it used to be. I know that for sure. That's not how my grandma taught me. So that's just one example. maybe reaching out to a neighbor who might need help moving something. There's endless opportunities to help other people out there. You just got to look for them. So then once I established that, we got self-will and God's will, is how do I get there? Well, I just had to realize there's that third will, it's free will, and it's right in the middle. And I have that choice on which way I want to go. I'm human. I'm never going to 100% be able to do God's will, but the more I lean that way, the more happy I am and the more peace I have. And then I also figured out it wasn't really all about the drugs and the alcohol. There was a lot of character defects that I had acquired when I was using, and some of them I actually had before I started using. Some of those, being selfish, manipulative, trying to get a certain situation to be in my favor, controlling, whether it be, controlling other people, trying to control their emotions by things that I would say or do, basically just trying to get my way all the time, being dishonest, lying all the time, and then, I had to kind of look at how to get out of those character defects. So, trying to be honest more, definitely trying to show genuine love to people and receiving love, because I had shelled up. I didn't really, for a long time, let people help me. Let people, reach out to me. I always wanted to do it my way, and I thought that, I was going to get myself out of the addiction. And that never worked. I was back and forth with that for probably 8 years, addicted to cocaine and crack, and then, finally allowing, God and other people to help me really work. I had to also learn acceptance, which is, just accepting other people for who they are and not trying to change them. There's certain personalities that I'm going to clash with, especially being in rehab, and being around other addicts a lot the last 14 months. I really just had to, accept that, that's just how a certain person is. And if I don't agree with it, I don't have to let it affect my serenity. I also had to learn how to deal with depression, anxiety, and stress naturally. That was really hard. When I went into the Hope House, I was on medication for anxiety and depression. While I was there, I weaned myself off of both medications. Now, I'm not saying that's what y'all should do if you are on medication. Sometimes you still need it. Consult a doctor. I'm not a doctor. But I was able to learn how to deal with anxiety and depression naturally. And that was through prayer and meditation mostly. Surrounding myself with other people that were trying to do the same thing that I was trying to do, which is recover. That really helped. Talking it out with somebody instead of lashing out or letting my anger or my rage take over. And the same rule applies, with those character defects. I'm human, so, sometimes they're going to come back, but I can push them back a lot easier now. There's some character defects that mine that kind of surfaced recently, and it just showed me that there's more work that I have to do. As a community, we can't eliminate drugs. There's always going to be drug dealers. There's always going to be dirty doctors. It's going to always be out there. But we can push back and, be there for support, encouragement. These are, the non-users. And even the users, I guess, too. Be a resource. Trying to show people where they can get help. Really, I'm just definitely grateful for the opportunity in Richmond. And, one thing I learned is that I really had to want it. Before, I was always trying to get clean for something or somebody else. To keep my job, to get custody back with my my son, to keep a woman from leaving, because I really didn't think I had a problem, or I thought it was at least kind of under control. I was functioning for a long time while I was using it. But it just came to a point where I wanted it. I didn't want that constant life, sitting alone and feeling sorry for myself all the time, that pity party for me. There's a lot of people in this room, and I don't want to name names because there's too many that definitely helped me and been there for support, so I'm grateful for that. Are there any questions? I'm going to read some part of the book, but before I do, is there any questions? Yes.
When did you start writing the book?
Okay.
At what point?
Thanks. Well, that has cover that. So the book, it's Find Your Island. I wrote the first 6 chapters when I was still using and drinking, and then the 7th chapter I wrote at the Hope House. So there's 2 things. It gives the non-addict a look into the mind of a using addict, because sometimes I know we've had family members or friends who are just like, why doesn't he stop? Why can't he just quit? So it kind of gives them that look, into the mind. And then there's also the theme of it gives hope that recovery is possible if you put in the work, you put in the time, and you really want it. No more questions? All right.
Jeff, I got one.
Yes.
So when you were writing before, those chapters before, was that just therapeutic for you to write those down? Or did you have any concepts of something to do with that someday? Maybe like a hope that you didn't?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I didn't know if I really didn't think I would get to this point to be able to get the book out there. It was part therapy, part to keep my mind occupied. I was trying to make some feeble attempts to quit using, but it almost got lost because I hand wrote the book in a notebook, and my house got robbed right before I left for rehab, like 2 weeks or a week before I went to rehab. And for some reason, they took a bunch of crazy stuff, like house cleaning products, books, and other stuff. And, there weren't many valuables by that time because I was going to be pawn shop on eBay and selling everything left and right. So they didn't steal the notebook for the book, though. So I was able to go in after they robbed my house, and they just scattered stuff everywhere. It was just a mess. And, actually lost the house to foreclosure. But yeah, the book was still there, so I grabbed that on my way out. I grabbed my final couple boxes of belongings from the house. Yes.
When you started, when you decided that Hope House was the place that you were going to work for your sobriety, how did you get there? Did someone take you there? Did you have a friend that helped you, or a doctor?
That's a good story too. I had a really
And
good...
if you don't feel comfortable sharing, that's
No, that's fine. I had a really good friend. He's still a good friend. I think it was January 17th. My friend Adam,
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked that question.
it's a good story. So, no, it's good. It's good how it all happened together. He was actually working at a rehab facility in South Bend. And, he was working on trying to find me a place to go. And he had found the Hope House. This was January 17th. And so I checked into it online, but I really wasn't ready yet. I didn't want it enough at that point. And I think it was at the end of March, I called the Hope House and did a phone interview. And Miss Whitney, the director, great woman, she said, come on down. But I still wanted to do those couple last hurrahs. And so I missed my date to get there. And finally she was like, you gotta come down Monday. So this would have been April 24th. So I had procrastinated for almost a month to get down there. Maybe 3 weeks, 2 weeks. And she was like, we're gonna get your bed away, which is understandable. I didn't seem like I really wanted it. And so finally the Sunday before the 23rd, I missed my ride, and because I had stayed out using and drinking for 36 hours. And then Monday morning, I finally made it, so almost did.
Question, there's two aspects to drug addiction. One is before you take drugs called a mental obsession, and the other is after you haven't had it for a while, the body continues to crave. There's two different things, one's mental, one's physical. Could you discuss that for us a little bit? Do you still have that? Does your body still crave it, so on, or does your mind still think, well, maybe, or something like that? Thank you.
The cravings were there for a long time. It probably took 3 or 4 months for those to really go away. I was smoking crack and drinking almost every day for 4 months.
Yeah.
But I would say now they're few and far between. Once in a while, when there's something emotional or mentally damaging that happens to me, the cravings will come back. But it helps to have, to go to a meeting definitely helps with that. Because somebody else might talk about how they're having cravings. Don't feel like you're all alone. Not isolating definitely helps with that. Sometimes when I get cravings, I try to isolate to make them go away. That just makes it worse. But I would say the mental obsession, though, a lot of that goes with memories. When I was using, there's a lot of bad memories. So those will never go away, but obsessing over them has definitely gone away. I think just by working the steps definitely helps with that. Yes.
Prior to your novels, I know you probably didn't have a lot of extra time on your hands. Was writing one of your hobbies, or did you just kind of pick it up and find it therapeutic? And like you had a good story, a good message to send?
I would say I've always liked to write. It was mostly just poetry, though. I've tried to start a couple of books here and there, and just never followed through with it. Mostly with just about everything else when I was using, I didn't follow through with much. I had all these grand ideas that I was going to do this and I was going to do that. And, it was all pretty much drug talk, or drunk talk, sitting at the bar. And, but I would say for this one, I thought that, I would say that I thought it was a good story. It would be a good story if I could complete the rest of it and get to rehab and try to change a lot of things in my life.
What's the significance of the title of the book?
Find Your Island.
Yeah.
It just came to me one night. It was kind of like I had been treading water for so long and hitting waves being pushed back, and I was trying to get to the spot, and that was hard.
I find your book to be very well written. Did you excel in school in creative writing or any of those things, or was this something new that you discovered?
I've always been pretty good at writing. never really entered any competitions or anything like that. A lot of people had me edit their papers though, high school and college. So there's some of that. I actually edited it myself. I had a couple other people look it over and they found some stuff, that it's grammar mistakes and stuff like that. I wanted to kind of put kind of a poetic sense into it from poetry that I read. Looking right now, actually, I actually started writing it in Bloomberg. It's the second book, which is Build Your Home or Build Your House. I'm not sure which one I want to use, which would focus on once I get to the island, now what do I do? Because it's not over. I still have a lot of things that I need to do to build a lot of parts of my life back up. My physical apartment, getting that in order. Still continuing to build my relationship with my son. Financially, trying to dig out of that hole. So, but it's a lot easier to do it clean it's over now. That's for sure. Just trying to work on these things because when I would try to tackle them, drinking and using, it just was kind of running around in a circle.
Hi, Jeff. Apologize for being late.
It's okay.
You touched a lot on spirituality, but I've always considered myself spiritual. But you give me a lot of things to think about because you have a lot of different perspectives on spirituality that I'd never thought of until I read your book. So, could you elaborate on that a little bit?
For me, I was born and raised Catholic, but I stopped going to Catholic Mass when I was 18. But then I got back into non-denominational Catholic or Christian church, and I'm a Christian when I was probably 26, but I still didn't want it enough. I still didn't want to trust God enough to hand things over to Him. And then once I got here to Richmond, I started going to the Professor Worship Center, which is a great Christian church for me. And there's a lot of great people there. And I guess for me, spirituality has a lot to do with faith. And there's two kinds of faith that I came to realize. There's that faith where step out into something like moving to Bloomington where I don't know a single soul, starting with God and trusting that God's going to make the word. But there's also that faith where I need to step back and let God work His things, which kind of goes along partly with my recovery. I guess you got to use both of those space for that, but it goes along with me not trying to manipulate situations and control situations.
Okay, so you said that the first 6 chapters of your book were during your addiction, is that correct? And then the 7th chapter is about recovery. Does it go further on into that, or are you done at chapter 7?
It ends there with chapter 7, that kind of gave me the little house, but that's the second book. I'm definitely going to elaborate more on things I had to do since the whole house.
That's what I was going to lead into that question next, which you answered. So, do you have an idea as to when? Do you have a time frame as far as your second book release? Or I know that's probably a big question, right? Because you're like, well, I'm not going to do it.
It took 4 months to write the first book, and then another probably 4 months to try and get it, edited and get some other things established. Bob actually painted the cover right here. Did a great job. Painting, kind of went over the concept and stuff like that. And then there was another would have been another 4 months to get it to a point where it was kind of ready to be published, and then another 2 months to get everything worked out with the printer publisher. So it it was about 14 months, so maybe 2020 might be a good, early 2020, maybe late 2019. I should probably start kind of thinking about that. Thanks.
Well, you said you were torn on whether to name that next book Build Your Home or House.
Yes.
And I don't know what your feelings are about that, but home is where the heart is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where your home is, so I don't know how you felt about either or, but I think home sounds great.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards home definitely. Yes.
Yeah, just wonder if we could hear it.
The book?
Yeah.
Are you ready? Is there any more questions? Yes.
You had already mentioned this last few minutes. Like, how long did you actually spend at the Hope House?
It's a 4-month program there. It's inpatient, and it is faith-based. And I think they actually are planning to move from their current location here in the next couple of years. They're on the state hospital grounds right now. I think they're looking to move closer to downtown.
And are they still male only?
They are still male only, but there's a Crossroad that I believe is kind of the female version of the Hope House, and they're out off 27 South, right?
Yeah.
And that's a great place too. I actually have talked with one of the directors there a couple of times. Okay. Thanks for the water, Chris. This is going to be from chapter 5, which is titled, "There is no reason to use period, end of sentence." And I named it that because there really isn't. I used to try to make excuses of why I wanted to use or justify it all the time. Every single time I would relapse. It was because of this or because that, or I was feeling this way, or I just couldn't, So it's kind of from the second page here. I've used when I was stressed out. For some reason, I thought drugs would relieve the stress. The drugs wouldn't relieve the stress. They just cause more stress and a self-induced insanity. Everybody deals with some sort of stress, and I needed to find a way to cope naturally. Sometimes I would just shut down, and unable to think straight, sleeping would shake off the rust temporarily. Going into a dream world lucidly, the alternate reality proved far superior to how I had been living. So kind of what that means is I try to, start dreaming and try to escape, and run from what I was trying to deal with. Sleeping let me go far off to a land where anything would and could happen. The problem was that it wasn't real life in any capacity. The more I thought about it, the more I wanted to run far away. Not facing my dark haunts had me believing not in myself, but what I wasn't. A coping mechanism ingrained for the sole purpose of passive strength. Temporary relief from a world created from serotonin spells. Serotonin is the drug released from cocaine, which was crack, which was what I was addicted to. Cells split like cello breaks. The cellophane game had one thing, the war within. I wanted to scream, I wanted to yell, yellow belly in the shell. Drugs eating away day by day, I had to chew my stress and spit it out. Hold my breath and exhale slowly. I had to focus on the positive things in life and what can become by positive changes. I had to turn the corner, and instead of jumping into traffic, I needed to walk a new path. Running for the light of life made the heart pump faster, and the muscles grow, enlarging the damage, but still pumping madness, circular sadness. Stomach full of hunger, nutrients were lacking. It was survival of the fittest. Dog eat dog. A whole apartment full of people, nobody with money or drugs. Who would get over on who was part of the game? Trained to drain every last penny and take until the thoughts thickened into trouble. Pain was a way to try and feel the hurt. Pure, unaltered numbness felt only when the cocaine cover-up was canceled. So I was trying to numb myself by using, but when I was done using, I was still numb inside. It didn't help. Facing what was real was not in any plan. Melting away into a ball of affliction, Sinking into despair, I rolled up in a cocoon. The hardest part to take was that I created the pain myself. My actions and decisions pierced my own heart, not to mention the waves of grief washed up on others. Sorry didn't cut it. My only way of showing I was truly sincere in my apologies was to stop using it. And I would, say over and over to people, I'm sorry, but I wasn't making any changes. And that's, what would have been a real apology to a lot of people. There's also, part of the steps is making amends. And, what it's taught me is that, I can claim my side of the street. I can ask for forgiveness and apologize to people, but they don't have to forgive me. And I don't have to try and force that out of them. And sometimes it's going to take a long time for some people to trust me. I had to realize that, from the years and years of damage, it might take a couple of years for some people to trust me. I just have to be patient with that. Some people might not ever trust me, and I just have to accept that. But the more I stay patient and the more I start, keep making changes, hopefully a lot of that will come back. After I had gone on a run, the reality would sink in. Carrying my own weight on my own shoulders, heavy burdens broke my back. Progressive flames of dripping wet fire, burning wires. Walking in the chilled spring air, I footed it to past pastures. Streets flooded with feet, I used in dark alleys by myself and blended in with shadows of trees, pulling my hoodie tight. Basking in the essence, my repentance was to move past negligence. When things were going good and everything was right, I would use. And that's true too. It was part of making those excuses. I would use when things were going good too a lot of the times. When things were looking positive, kind of a way to celebrate, I guess, just another excuse to try and get high. Would I go on and waste my minutes or call on something higher? Someone to take me there or somebody to make me care? I could hardly follow the right advice. Handed down from the hands reaching out, my crimes never paid off. Everything was in place, but more was calling. Something else to make everything seem better. Once the deed was done, reality crept in once again. Wrong turns burned progress. Maintaining balance, weight lifted, weathered storms breezed past differences. Filling empty hearts within, coping with inner peace, blessed into the forest at ease, impressed by why we test. So anger would always be a great excuse to use. Like I said, another excuse. I get mad at something that didn't go my way, or somebody rubbed me the wrong way. Well, I'm just going to go get high. And it didn't fix anything. Mad at the world for reasons bestowed upon my rooted release, the joke didn't take the animosity away, it just made it worse. Rage against the robotic rhetoric, shackled in a seamless slumber. Internal temperatures rising and heated in the moment, hardly any hate would poison progress. Resentments were held in check, released after a build-up to boiling steam. Resentments were a big thing that I would hold on to, things that people had did to me, and were people that I was just still mad at. I wouldn't let that go. I would hold grudges for a long time. And like I said, those would eat me from the inside out. So now I try to identify those a lot sooner, get rid of them, and what helps is just kind of praying for the person. Honestly, that helps me get out of my resentments. Definitely. Skin poorly, excuses continue to pour out of my pores. That's the end of chapter 5. So is there any more questions? Well, definitely, I would like to thank everybody for coming out today, for the support. It's really awesome. How many recovering addicts do we have here in the room? It's great. It's great to see everybody here trying to just better their lives.
hashtag to learn on this?
I guess it's part of that 12 step.
You have a Mac?
I've always wanted to help others though, ever since, I was probably in like high school. And I think that's one of the reasons why that was blocking me from, eventually getting clean, because I would not focus on myself. I would lose my focus on myself sometimes. And, I just had to realize I had to help myself first before I could really start helping others.
I got one thing to say here. It's not really a question, but I'd just like to thank you for sharing that. I know that opening up about stuff like this can be really hard, but I feel like that's really therapeutic. It helps, the person sharing as well as others. So I just want to thank you for that.
Thanks.
Same here. I think I can relate to you in a lot of different ways, and it was very moving. I'm over here in tears and I cry a lot. I was one of many that watched you grow, and the words just don't come how proud we are of you, and yet you've got. I can't wait till the second book comes. To the next. It's almost like chapter after chapter after chapter when you go through recovery, you open a new chapter and go through it, and your willingness was just. You just kept going and going. So I'm all of us that have watched you grow day by day are very, very proud of you, and we hope you keep doing this to help others, because it does. You have no idea the impact that you have to help others, and we're very proud of that. Thank you.
There are a couple things too in the book. It's a short read, but I was kind of thinking maybe I wanted to make it longer, but then while I was at the Hope House, finishing up writing it, I was like, no, this is perfect, because one, when I was out there using and drinking, my attention span was like this. I couldn't sit and read probably 5 pages sometimes of anything. So, it's a quick read, and then also addicts don't have a lot of time. I think it was like an addict dies from a drug-related crime or overdose once every 12 minutes now in the United States. So it's getting up there with, cancer and drug-related deaths. It's probably about hand in hand, I'm thinking right now, as far as, the amount of people that are dying from it. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Any more public signing questions?